Looks like we've got, well, it depends on which stream you're on, I guess, as to how many, seconds we have left. YouTube, much better. Thank you, Stanley, for letting me know. This is probably the first one I've done that's really not a test. So it really does help having the feedback. So I really do appreciate that. YouTube says we have 9 seconds left. LinkedIn is a little bit farther behind. So let me go ahead and switch to this view. It's a little more friendly, and besides the countdown on my end, has stopped. So we'll go with that. And let's just go ahead and roll the intro. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining me today. My name is Eric Anthony, and I am the founder, content creator, whatever you want to call it, for all things MSP. This is my passion project. I started out in the IT industry way too long ago that I care to admit. When I first started consulting for actual clients who were paying me, my mom still had to drive me around in a car because, I didn't drive yet. For those of you who don't know me, I started out, doing, break fix, had my own break fix consulting company, if you will, for about 10 years. And then did a couple of other things and decided to go back to it. Started my managed services business, which I ended up selling, going to the vendor side, which is where I am now. And I truly love this industry. And it's really something that I have decided that this is one of the ways that I can give back. And so that's what I'm doing. If you have any questions, please go ahead and put those in the chat, because I do have some topics that I'm going to bring up. But of course, it's so much better if we do this, more interactively. So let me make sure that I have everything set up here, because again, testing this out for real live, it's a little bit, there's a lot of controls to manage. Now if you guys are getting into live streaming, which I suggest you do any type of video, live streaming is one of those that can be a little more daunting because, well, it's live and, stuff happens, which if you can just roll with it is great. But one of the things that I have found really helps with doing these is an Elgato Stream Deck, hashtag not sponsored, but I have both the large and the small version. The mini version is the one that I kind of take on the road with me when I'm traveling, and the large version is the one that sits on the desk here at home. All right, so let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and get started with some of my starter topics here and see where that kind of takes us. So let me go ahead and let's see, is everything writ? There we go. Okay. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how to automate but monetize break fix clients. This comes up quite a bit. This is a great discussion if you haven't seen it on Reddit. If you aren't a member or don't follow the MSP Reddit, you really should. A lot of great conversations. As usual, there's, all the fun stuff too. But there's usually some really good topics that deserve some great discussion. I think this is one of them. When we talk about break fix clients, it's really, it's hard to define because it's really a spectrum, right? From break fix to maybe what you might call fully managed. And it's hard to make a distinguishing mark, in between, because there's so many places in between where you could actually say it's kind of managed, but it's kind of not. You can have break fix clients, but they could still be on some kind of recurring revenue. But in this specific case, this is somebody they are, let's call it responsible for their IT. That's probably a good word for it. And the thing that's interesting to me is that they understand that they can greatly reduce their cost, greatly reduce the amount of labor used to do all of these things that they're responsible for at this client, but they're still billing clients by the hour. They're still billing time and materials because they're break fix clients. So this is an interesting situation because you're doing the work of a managed service provider, right? You are updating, you're doing patching, you're doing all of these things that would normally be included for a set price in a managed services contract, but you're doing them, on a time billing basis. The question here is, how do you take that stuff that you would normally physically, if you're doing break fix, you'd physically do it with your hands, with your, fingers on the keyboard, so to speak. And, you're going to take that. And because you want to save yourself money, because labor is your biggest cost, how are you going to actually automate that, but then bill them for that? Because automation, obviously, you either take a whole bunch of keystrokes and you get them down to maybe one or a handful. You're obviously saving yourself time. But here's the thing that I want to bring up. And this is something that I've talked about for years. And it's the value of being a managed service provider. So the value of being a managed service provider is delivering a service that allows them to basically not have to worry about their IT, right? And so whether you do that by hand or whether you do that by automation, you're delivering the same amount of value. The way I used to describe it is back in the day, and yes, I am that old. Back in the day, if we were doing patch management or we were making sure that virus, software was up to date, you would physically schedule time to roll a truck, go to the client, and then actually sit at each individual computer to do those updates. You would sit there, you'd make sure that the antivirus was up to date. You would make sure that all the patching was done. You'd check all the other stuff, whether or not the hard drive was running out of space, all of those different things that you would normally look for in that your RMM tool pretty much does today. So how do you bill for that? Well, the great thing is some of your RMM tools, and I don't actually remember which ones exactly. I think N-Central is one that will do this. What it will do is it'll actually, when you run an automation against a machine, it'll actually create a ticket and put time against that ticket for, whatever you did. Even though it was an automation, it would bill it like you did it manually. So I think that's probably the best solution. It still requires, hands-on. Now you could probably figure out how to script it and do things like that. But I think that's probably one of the best ways to really capture that value, because just because you're doing it in less time doesn't mean you're delivering less value. So you want to make sure that you capture the billable time just as if you were doing it by hand. Now, I know some people are going to agree. Some people are going to disagree. It's just an interesting situation. I would like to hear your opinion. So if, you're on there, go ahead and comment. Let me know what your comments are, and we can certainly discuss that. But in terms of value, it's one of the problems with, I think, a lot of us being engineer types, technical types, and wanting to deliver the best service to the customer at the best price. And I think it's that price thing that kind of trips us up. And so change, wherever you see that word price, change it for value. It'll help you when you're thinking about how to develop your pricing for your clients. It'll also help when you are talking to your clients about how much your services are going to cost them. So interesting thing that I thought was, worthy of bringing up, because it's just, one of those topics that gets tossed around every once in a while. And because of all the confusion between what's break fix and what's fully managed, and if I automate some of my break fix, how does that? So all of that stuff, interesting conversation. I was glad to see it on Reddit. I think it was just today that I captured this one. All right. So let me know what you think. If you're new here, go ahead and shout out in the comments. Let me know you're here. If you didn't know, we also have a Facebook group. So you can go ahead and do that Facebook group. make sure that you're joined there. That's where we have a lot of the conversations. The LinkedIn group is relatively new. I just started a month or two ago, but I felt like it was a good place to reach out to MSPs. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube and obviously you just joined the Facebook group, here's another one. So go ahead and make sure that you join us on LinkedIn. Like I said, LinkedIn we just started on, so it's relatively new, but we post most of the content to both places so that if you are, if you use LinkedIn and you don't use Facebook, you can just join there. So the content is pretty much the same. Obviously, YouTube is just the video content, but that's also a great place to, make sure, because I do publish things on YouTube sometimes that don't necessarily make it to Facebook or to the LinkedIn page, although usually I post the link to the YouTube video. But just in case, make sure you do like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the Facebook things. You know what to do. All right, so let's go to our next topic. What's our next topic here? Oh, this is more of just a kind of a public service announcement. If you hadn't heard, I think I've gotten 4 or 5 emails from vendors today about the Fortinet vulnerability. If you have Fortinet devices, please go ahead and make sure that you update those. The versions are down here. I don't think I didn't put a link anywhere because you probably can go ahead and, pretty easily find what you need to do there. And then the next one, this one, unpopular opinion. And I hope this one actually gets some input from you guys, some comments from you guys, because this is always a good one. And it's been a good one for a long, long time. I kind of can't believe that it's 2022 and we're actually still having this conversation. And, obviously the poster here starts out by saying, unpopular opinion, your techs shouldn't have local admin privileges on their machines. Now, I happen to 100% agree, as long as you add the caveat that the user that they use day in, day out, all day to do their work doesn't have local admin privileges. I think they still need access to a user that has local admin privileges, that when they need those privileges, they log in, use those privileges, and then log back out and use their standard user. This has been, what we've been telling users to do for years. I understand there are, some software applications that don't work well without a lot of configuration to make them work with standard users, but that's what you get paid for, right? So obviously I'm probably going to see a lot of comments on this. We don't have a lot of viewers on the live stream right now, but that's because I just I scheduled this one like earlier this morning. So I wasn't expecting a lot of people to show up. I really appreciate the fact that Stanley showed up, to help me make sure that the audio was set right. That was definitely a win. But what are your thoughts on local admin privileges? Because I know that it kind of runs the whole, probably the most interesting comment that we usually see is it's whatever business you're talking about, it's their machines. They should have the right to do whatever they want with those machines. Okay. Obviously, not a wrong statement, right? However, if they had an internal IT department and not you, their internal IT department, if they're doing what they're supposed to do, they would still be telling them not to have local admin privileges to use day in and day out. And if that local or that internal IT department allowed everybody to use local admin privileges and something happened that could have been prevented by those local admin privileges being revoked and them using standard users, I feel pretty safe in saying that they probably wouldn't have a job at that business anymore. And so I think going to the MSP model, it's the exact same. If you allow them to do this, then you are at risk for, at minimum, I think, getting fired. At maximum, they could come after you for damages. So this is not just the user, the business owner, accepting risk for their own decision, right? Which technically they should be allowed to do. But I also, in my personal opinion, would not take that on as a client, because that is just too much of a risk profile to my business as an MSP. Personal opinion there, but that's how I feel. All right. I think that's probably, we're bucking up against 15 minutes here. I didn't expect this live stream to go very long. Again, it was the first one. I didn't schedule in advance. I didn't think that there would be a lot of people on it today, so I wasn't too worried about it. However, I do have one coming up, and let me switch screens. Well, no, I don't need to do that. Let's see here. Well, no, I'll just tell you about it because I thought I had it here handy, but I don't. Looks like we may have another live stream next week. Alan Edwards is going to be coming on and talking about his new book. If you're into processes, or if you're not, this is definitely something you're going to want to check out. It's, to me, running a business is built on processes. You can't scale without processes. You can't reduce costs. There's a lot of things you can't do if you don't standardize on your processes. And I think Alan's book really speaks to a lot of that. But anyway, that's what we're going to have for next week. Let me know, because I know people are probably going to watch this on the repeat. They're going to watch it, the recording either on LinkedIn or on YouTube. And go ahead and comment. Let me know what you guys would like to see in these live streams. Obviously, they're going to include videos They're going to include interviews because I love doing interviews with other people in the channel. There's a lot of great books that have come out recently, including Alan's, that I want to get into. And so, we're going to do that. All right. So that's it. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover today. So, we can toss that. But anyway, there was supposed to be a sound effect there. I don't know what happened with that. There we go. Oh, I know what it was. I forgot to turn the volume up after I turned the music down during the intro. So there's your sound effect. A little bit late. Let's see if we can do a better one. There we go. There's an explosion for you. Never let it be said that there were not explosions on this show. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week.